Pastor and beloved congregation, I want to share with you today what God is doing and has done in my life that stopped me from quitting because that desire, and age and all these other things were coming in at this time and pressures. But you see, God reminded me of what He had told me years before. When a battle comes, the battle, the test, is so you can move on to something else, just like an exam, to move from one class to another to finish a course. And it's always something new. A test is there to take you into something new. And God reminded me, even though I'd had, a good week and then a bad week and everything just fell out of organization, but God reminded me. And I went to a church, a Nazarene church, a pastor that I know had asked me to come and preach on the Holy Spirit. He said, God challenged me to build a new building. And He did. He took and built a building for 770 people with only 120 to 150 at present time. But God provided the money. And so He was responding to God. He said, now what we need here is the Holy Spirit. We'll not reach these people unless we move in the power of Holy Spirit. Dr. D, come and teach us about Holy Spirit. I did. 3 nights. Just some foundational material because I wanted them to grasp that in their mind before we move on to the next step of laying hands on them for receiving the baptism in Holy Spirit. And then I went to the city of Tarapoto immediately after that, and I met with 9 pastors who I never met before. They were brought together by a pastor and wife friends of mine. And so I was asked to just be there to answer their questions. It wasn't a preaching time. It wasn't a teaching time. It was Q&A time. So I responded, but they said, start this way. First of all, tell us about your ministry. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you've been, what you've been doing, and what has happened in your life. So I did, and I told them some things, even about some painful situations and how God took that painful situation to open the door for me to be a missionary, and was sharing with them all of these things. And a pastor on front kept looking in his phone, and I thought making calls, and he was. I found out he raised his hand. He said, I don't have a question, but I'm going to make a statement. I've been calling the churches that you've been mentioning, the pastors, to find out if what you're saying is true. Everyone said it's true. Therefore, I'm asking you now to make a commitment tonight that you will return to Tarapoto and spend time with us, because we need to hear what God has laid on your heart and what you've been sharing with other pastors. Wow. You see, the fight, don't let it get in your mind. It got into Eve's mind, the wrong things, and know what happened to her. And so I have tried to protect myself from that type of thing. And from there, 3 weeks later or so, I was in Cayal, a neighboring city to Lima. It's one of the whole metropolitan areas, cities in the metropolitan areas there. And I was at a pastor's meeting, pastors and wives and leaders. And I was sharing using Elijah and his word from God to go to a city. And it was the most wicked city of the day. One of them. And find a lady that I'll show you that she's preparing to die, she and her son. Ask her to feed you. Man, you talk about a challenge in desperate times. And that was desperate times. You see, even those pastors there had been in desperate times. Political situation changed. They've got an open-minded communist leader who was trained in Cuba as president now, and they're working to stop him and put him out. All the pandemic problems and all the overflow things that happened to the church as a result of the pandemic, the loss of people and friends and loved ones. And God began challenging me to bring this message the way He laid it out to me. Pastors surviving in desperate times. And I challenged him from the word and everything that happened with Elijah. During that ministry, I noticed they were starting to clap and shout. And by the time I finished, and it was one of the worst personal times of struggles. It was not an oracle of mine. It had to be the moving of the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit flooded that place, and they were standing, shouting, and jumping and praising God. And the mayor of the city came up to me afterwards. He happened to be there. And he said, I heard everything you said, and your interpreter translated it perfect. He was speaking to me in English. What a shock. But he said, this is what my city needs. This is what our pastors need to declare. Thank you. Please return. Another mayor from another city was there, said almost the same thing. A pastor from a very large church in the Lima area challenged me also and said, we need to hear this. Listen, beloved, God has a message for us in the last days, and he wants to use us. He wants to use you, and he wants to use me. Give God a chance, will you? Get involved in missions. Let's bless these people overseas and help me reach out to them in new ways and encourage them in the things of God. God bless you. Your pastor has information that he can share with you about my ministry and how to involve yourself with it. God bless you.